Among the guests at the dinner were celebrities like Neo and Usher, as well as Jimmy Iovine. At the dinner, Diddy and Cassie had an argument in front of dinner guests. Diddy hissed at Cassie in a screaming whisper and forcefully punched her in the stomach. Hey, what's up? It's your girl Nique, and you're tuned in to Nique at Night. And tonight we're going to be talking about this Don Richards versus Diddy lawsuit. Now, in an almost 3-hour live, I went through this lawsuit and I read as much of it as I could. Now, it's 55 pages. It's very, 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 very detailed. And she talks about so many things in depth. Now, I'm going to talk specifically in this video about the things that she says she witnessed happen to Cassie. Now, we've all seen and heard about the stuff that Cassie alleged to happen between her and Diddy and how traumatic that situation was. Now, Don also reveals how it was a traumatic experience working for him. And while explaining how she went through his tirades, she also talked about her observing his tirades as well. Many of the things that she observed and experienced, she shared an experience that she recalled to have happened with her bandmate Kalina as well, who is now saying that she does not have the same recollection as Don, and she is going against what she is saying. Now, I'm going to get to the part about her bandmate basically not having the same recollection as her a little later, but for now, let me read what she says that she observed to have happened between Cassie, and then we'll get to that. So she mentions Cassie for the first time around page 9 of her lawsuit, and we're just gonna go right to the part where she says that he met Cassie, he was intrigued by her, and then she later details how things go left and he starts to put the pause on Cassie. All right, so right here it says, Miss Richard was present when Mr. Combs was introduced to Cassandra Cassie Ventura for the first time in or around 2006. The moment Mr. Combs first saw Miss Ventura, his demeanor noticeably shifted. Mr. Combs positioned himself directly in front of Miss Ventura's seat, invading her personal space and fixated on her with an intense, unyielding stare, isolating her from other people in the room, including her then boyfriend, music producer Ryan Leslie. It goes on to say, observing Mr. Combs behave in such an intimidating, predatory manner the first time that they were off camera made Don feel deeply apprehensive and afraid of him. Subsequently, Cassie ended her relationship with Mr. Leslie and began dating Diddy, who would become a trauma to be around, in so many words. All right, so the first part that I read was during her time of making the band, and that's where she says that she observed Diddy meet Cassie, and he ultimately Mr. Steal Your Girl and stole Ryan Leslie girl. Now, fast forward, she's no longer in Danity Kane. She now is in Diddy Dirty Money, and she talks about what it was like to record that album and the things that she observed and had to go through. Now, some of the stuff that she had to go through was the violence that Cassie would endure while they were together. In this article, she's Miss Richard, and then their other bandmate that was a part of Diddy Dirty Money is Kalina, and her last name is Miss Harper. So that's Miss Harper, Richards is Don, Mr. Combs is Puff, Ventura is Cassie. So I'll just say their names so that we could just get on with it. So it says, the initial recording for Diddy Dirty Money album, Last Train to Paris, took place in Diddy's home on Doheny Drive in Los Angeles, California. On the first day of recording, Don and Kalina arrived at Diddy's home and waited in the kitchen where Diddy's girlfriend, Cassie, was frying eggs for him. It says, Don observed Diddy come down the stairs looking extremely inebriated and on some enhanced cocktails. She said he entered the kitchen, he approached Cassie, and he screamed, I've been asking you for my ish. I can't stand you, B. You never do it right. Diddy pushed Cassie against the wall, hemmed her up by the neck, then picked up the scalding hot pan of eggs and threw it at her, causing her to fall to the ground in the fetal position, cursing and screaming. Diddy dragged Cassie up the stairs, and she said she looked on frozen in shock and terror. Dawn heard glass shattering, crashing, banging noises as Diddy dragged Cassie up the stairs. Dawn wanted to intervene and help Cassie, but Kalina adamantly refused to interfere in Diddy's relationship and physically led Dawn outside of the residence. Terrified and shaking, Dawn returned to her hotel where she was unable to sleep due to worrying about Cassie and her own safety. The following day, Dawn received a call demanding that she return to Diddy's home and continue recording. Diddy brought Dawn and Kalina into the recording room at his studio, locked the door, dimmed the lights, and gave each of them flowers. Diddy went on at length stating that this is normal. This was just a lover's argument where no one was hurt. And this is what love is. I'm giving you an opportunity. If you want to make it, you'll shut your mouth. If you say anything, there will be consequences. Diddy further warned that people end up missing. Being threatened while locked for over 20 minutes in a small enclosed space with Diddy after observing Diddy violently assault Cassie the day before, Dawn was terrified and genuinely believed that Diddy would follow through on his threats. All right, so then she goes into like how the Diddy parties was, what she would see, and I'll save that for a separate video talking about specifically the Diddy parties. This one is about Cassie, so we're going to go down to where she mentions Cassie again and read that part. Now, it says, Mr. Combs, Diddy, openly assaulted Cassie in front of Dawn and other witnesses on multiple occasions. On one occasion, in or around the fall of 2009, Diddy Dirty Money was in New York preparing to perform at a festival. Inside their vehicle, Diddy grabbed Cassie's neck, pulled her out the van onto the grass, and pinned her head down. He yoked her up by the neck while yelling, "You gonna get effed up today." This incident took place in the backstage area just outside the festival and was entirely visible to passersby. In another instance, in or around early 2010, Diddy punched Cassie in the face in the bathroom of a party in LA. Frequently, when Cassie attempted to voice an opinion or stand up to Diddy, he would strike her or wrap his hands around her throat and choke her. On the first several occasions that they observed Diddy assault Cassie, Dawn and Kalina spoke with Cassie to support and encourage Cassie to escape this relationship, get away from the abuse. And every time that Dawn and Kalina tried to intervene, Diddy learned of the conversation and became irate. Diddy screamed at the women, "Y'all bees don't get in my relationship. Don't tell my bee," meaning Cassie, "what she need to be doing. Just make money and shut the F up. I end artists. I shelve careers. You could be missing and you bees want to die today," among other threats. Now, she then goes on to talk about how they inked a deal with Interscope. Interscope was now a part of their Diddy Dirty Money deal, and they had this meeting with Jimmy Iovine. Now, in this meeting with Jimmy Iovine, they talk about another time that Cassie was assaulted by Diddy, and she says that they enabled the behavior and basically were complicit. All right, so it says Interscope Records enabled Diddy in gender-motivated violence. And it goes on to say, in or around late 2009 or early 2010, Bad Boy Entertainment entered an agreement with Interscope. Upon information and belief, Bad Boy was paid $50 million in exchange for Bad Boy's future releases being distributed through Interscope. In so doing, Diddy intended to capitalize on Interscope's significant resources and enhance the promotion and sales of Bad Boy's releases, including Diddy Dirty Money's upcoming album. In the weeks and months leading up to Bad Boy Interscope deal, Mr. Combs had frequent meetings with the producer and the CEO of Interscope Records, Jimmy Iovine. On one such occasion, Diddy hosted a dinner at a West Hollywood, California restaurant, which Don and Kalina were required to attend. Now, again, Kalina was the girl that they had this group with Diddy together. Among the guests at the dinner were celebrities like Neo and Usher, as well as Jimmy Iovine. At the dinner, Diddy and Cassie had an argument in front of dinner guests. Diddy hissed at Cassie in a screaming whisper and forcefully punched her in the stomach, causing her to double over in pain, and she was crying. Miss Clark escorted Cassie out of the restaurant, and Diddy remained and continued socializing with the dinner guests. At this point, Interscope Records clearly had actual knowledge that Diddy was dangerous around females and that Diddy was willing to brazenly batter a female in public. Even after Mr. Iovine watched Mr. Combs commit a violent assault in front of numerous high-profile witnesses, the Bad Boy Interscope deal took place and remained in effect, providing Mr. Combs with immense financial rewards and enabling him to commit further acts of violence without fear of repercussion. Watching Mr. Combs openly assault Cassie in front of Mr. Iovine and various celebrities, and observing that other powerful music industry representatives were complicit in Diddy's behavior, amplified Don's fear that Diddy could one day harm her and that his actions would be accepted and normalized by everyone surrounding him. As a part of the agreement between Bad Boy and Interscope, Interscope heavily promoted Diddy Dirty Money Last Train to Paris album. Mr. Iovine had presented Diddy with a demo of Coming Home for him to produce, a song that would become a multi-platinum hit. Mr. Iovine was encouraging Diddy to develop new sound for the album, into which Interscope was investing significant resources. Don, Kalina, and Cassie all provided vocal performances for this project, etc., etc., etc. So that concludes the part about Cassie. I don't recall if they talked about her some more. They might have. If they do, definitely check out my full breakdown where I talk about this and read all the details. I feel terrible for the things that she had to go through, and I think that it's awful that she had to experience things from him that she felt were definitely traumatic, and she felt like there was people in positions of power that said nothing. Now, when she starts to point the fingers at other celebrities that are not like Interscope record labels, I'm just like, how can you be? It starts to feel like the pot calling the kettle black in a sense, because they were complicit just like you were. And speaking of pointing the fingers and things other people saw, let's get into the bandmate of hers that was in Dirty Money, who says quite the contrary. She basically says, baby girl, my name is Bennett and I'm not in it. In so many words. And some people are wondering, girl, did the check clear or what? So let's get into it. I acknowledge the recent lawsuit filed by Don Richard, in which my name has been mentioned 33 times. Can you imagine her attorney, or whoever is helping her write this, going through the 55-page document and counting how many times her name was mentioned? Child, a mess. So anyways, let's get back to the top. I acknowledge the recent lawsuit filed by Don Richard, in which my name has been mentioned 33 times. While I fully respect Don's right to recount her experience, I want to empathize that her account reflects her personal perspective and should not be interpreted as a universal truth applicable to everyone involved. It's important to understand that while I was present in some of the same professional settings mentioned, many of the allegations and incidents described in this suit are not representative of my experiences, and some do not align with my own truth. Tony and I have always conducted ourselves with the highest level of professionalism and integrity. We were not involved in, nor were we aware of, any behavior that could be considered abusive or unlawful. As this matter is now part of an ongoing legal process, I will refrain from discussing any specific details further. My focus continues to be on my family, my music, and my work, which I will pursue with the same dedication and positivity that have always guided me. I trust that the legal system will handle this case with the fairness and thoroughness it requires, and I support any process that seeks to uncover the truth. Now, as you can see, the main part that stuck out right here of her discounting Dawn's claim is discounting the fact that she did not witness any abusive or unlawful behavior. And most of the abusive and unlawful behavior Dawn mentioned was things that happened between his relationship with Cassie and how he treated them and the group directly. What's it giving, y'all? What y'all thinking? Somebody on the Shade Room basically said they think her bang got in the way, and maybe she couldn't see because the bang was covering up them eyes. Y'all let me know what y'all think about it down below, and I'll talk to you guys on the next one where I continue to break down this lawsuit.